Hello, Chloe. We're gonna take a look at your 5 characteristics posting, get a sort of little bit of a look and offer you some observations and thoughts on what I'm seeing. So let's just jump right into it. Do a little screen share here and we'll move ourselves over. Now, we'll do an overview, just kind of take a look at the posting in general, what we're looking at here. I tend to just basically be looking for generally the categories, whether you've got them labeled, whether they are in the order that they tend to be in, the order of direction, intensity, temperature, contrast, hardness. That's not arbitrary. Of course, it offers the acronym, which makes them easy to remember, DITCH. But also they are the order in which you would address them in a typical lighting scenario. Direction always comes first. The key light, you position that or you orient yourself to it always first. Then you address the intensity, whether you need more lighting, color balance, temperature, the contrast, whether you're going to be using reflectors, and then of course hardness, which deals with the shadows. So I look at that to see if you're putting them in the proper order, which it looks so far like you're doing pretty well. Contrast, that all looks good. So it looks like you got everything there. Very good. Good. So the next thing is essentially kind of looking at the accuracy, what you've got here. Direction. Now, in the direction, what we were looking for is examples from each of the positions on the compass. Direction 1 being where the camera and the light are close together, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you chose a random one for number 9. So the light should be coming from directly in front at first, and then is slowly moving around the composition. 5 is directly behind. So that's where we're looking at in terms of accuracy. A lot of students, believe it or not, kind of missed on that. They didn't quite get it. They didn't get the numbering quite right. And it looks like you missed a little bit too, just right here, because this composition that you have direction 3 and direction 4, both of them appear to be with a light directly behind the subject. Now, you may be not actually referring to position 3. You may be just thinking this is image number 3 for your direction and not referring it to the compass. So that may very well be it. I may clarify that with you later on. However, just so that you know, as we're talking, these are not position 3 and 4. This actually represents position 5 if we're talking about the lighting compass. And it is important that you are able to identify those positions. We do give them numbers so that you can use them to take notes, so that when you're setting something up for yourself, you'll be able to take a quick note to be able to say, oh, I've got the key light in position 4, so that next time you come in, you'll be able to know I need to put it in position 4 again. You don't have to remember, oh, where was the key light? Or if you're giving instructions for somebody else to come in later to set something up for you, they'll know what you're talking about. Anyway, the compositions that you're using are very good. You're using the entire picture plane. I hope you know what that means. It means that you're using the whole space very effectively here. From one edge to the other, from top to bottom, all of it looks like you're addressing it. In other words, you're not leaving anything out. You're using the space very effectively. You're using shape, you're using texture, you're using subtleties, this little subtle light right here. Hopefully you were looking at that and you saw it. Those are really effective in terms of leading the eye. Repetition, that's really an effective way to establish consistency amongst the images. Moving into intensity. Intensity is where we added the fill light, of course. That is where we have 2 lights, always starting with the key again. and then you add the fill to just supplement into the shadow areas so that they're not as harsh. You can see the difference from your direction and then into the intensity, that you're able to give a little bit more detail in the shadow areas, like on an image like this, where before they were very sort of graphic looking. Now with that secondary light in there, you can get more of the definition there. Sometimes it's not what you want. Sometimes you do want that graphic look. And in other cases, that's not what you're looking for. You need to get more detail. It all depends on what the objective of the shooting project is. I think your compositions tend to look more, I guess, natural. Well, they're more effective when they look natural. When we start to get into these kinds of things, at least so far what I'm seeing, these don't seem to be in your wheelhouse. These seem to feel a little bit affected to me. In other words, they don't seem like they're your strong point just yet. Like you were trying to figure out something to compose there. It's just an observation, because I think your other images have a less self-conscious feel to them, like this. This has a natural feel to them. The composition, it flows. There's a rhythm to it. It doesn't feel forced. This one feels like you're trying to make a composition. And that's fine. I want you to do that. I want you to try to make compositions. But it seems like this is coming more naturally to you right now. Keep trying the other ones. Keep working on those. Just know that I don't know that you're quite there with those graphic compositions just yet. So let's take a look at your temperature now that we're here. Temperature was all about introducing some of the camera action, some of that control of the white balance inside the camera. And you were asked to begin to manipulate that at the same time with the temperature of the light. You're also using the key light, moving the key light around. You've got the ability to use a fill light. It's starting to get more complex. This is the point where many of the photographers in this class begin to start to forget about composition. And this is sometimes what starts to happen. You start to get the same image twice, like this. And we want to shy away from that. I don't want you to do that. In the future, make sure you're putting totally unique images, unless otherwise directly instructed that it should be the same image, modified slightly. The aesthetics and control project that we're working on now, as you're watching this video, there will be a project. The depth of field project is meant to be that. The one where we're working in manual control, you're demonstrating that you can adjust exposures and stuff. That will be like, oh, it looks like the same photograph over and over. Those are very deliberately that way. These, in this project with 5 characteristics, was meant for you to explore. It was really meant for you to kind of move around. We don't want to see the same images posted on something like this. So unless it's really specifically highlighted that it should be the same image with subtle changes, lighting changes and stuff, always look for brand new compositions in your postings. You can make variations of the same image while you're shooting. That's always a good idea. But be sure that you're posting a variety of images so that it doesn't feel redundant when we're viewing them. I like the variations, though. I think what you're doing with the color variations is really good. It seems like you're exploring the settings pretty well. Contrast, this is where we introduced that tool, the reflector. Simple tool, very effective tool. You know, you don't want to be without it, especially when you're on your portrait shoots, which I know you do quite a bit. They're going to really help you. You're going to be able to redirect that sunlight back into the model's face. Get a card. All it has to be is a piece of white foam core. Foam core works best because it's a little more rigid than poster. You can even go and get a piece of that silver foam insulation board that I got. You get them at the home improvement stores. They're not expensive for a giant sheet, and you can just cut it down with a box cutter, and you can have folded pieces, and it reflects wonderfully. Use those on your locations. The reflector, what it does is it redirects the light that you're losing from that key light. And in this case, what we're doing is you got the key light, you're positioning it, and then you're bouncing it back in and controlling that reflection. You think if I'm reflecting light that you're going to lose control, but you can get some very accurate redirection using reflectors. And I think you're getting it. You got the idea pretty clearly. This one is one that's very easy to explain and to show, but it takes some real skill actually to figure out just how to use it really well. Different shapes, different sizes, different surfaces like shiny silver, shiny gold, white, gray, different tones. You can even use colors, blue, green, pink, to reflect subtle colors back into a scene. You're doing a very good job though with this. Again, these natural kind of compositions feel more like they're like you're more comfortable with them making images than when you're attempting to sort of set something up that feels more, I don't know. It just feels more self-conscious when you're setting something up like this. It just feels like you're trying to figure it out, whereas this seems like, let's see, something like, let's come back. Something like this just seems more like you are discovering it. And so I would work on the other, but I would also explore this. Make sure you understand that this is where I'm observing your strength is with these found compositions rather than sort of manufactured compositions like this. Work on the manufactured ones. Get better at it. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying the other ones are much better. Contrast, getting back down into hardness now. Hardness is all about the shadows, and this is another one that is a simple tool, just a translucent sheet basically over the light, diffusing the light, but it transforms the shadows from being just one note, hard, crisp edge, dark, to just this sort of having this all new complexity, this softness, this variation in the transition from the lights to darks. Use it all the time, especially with the portraiture. You'll see the variation. Once you start to use the diffused lighting, you're going to notice how useful it is when you're working not just with portraits, but with still life and with all kinds of other things. Especially when you start to combine it, when you're using a diffuser on the key light, the main light source, and then you're letting the fill light, which might be very subtle, be undiffused, letting it be hard, and it's kind of giving this sort of accent light to the side or something like that. That's a really good combination, especially with portraiture again, because I know you're working on portraiture. Some of your images did get dark. You lost the exposure for some reason. They got underexposed. Recognize that, make those corrections when they're happening, and if you see them, by all means don't post them. You don't want them up there if you don't have to have them up there. If you had alternative ones, I would have posted those instead of having ones that were just overwhelmingly dark like this one. But if you didn't, obviously you needed to get something up there, that's fine. But in the future, just take care not to if you don't have to put ones that are real dark like that, just don't. You don't have to. So that's basically what I'm seeing. Overall, I think you've got the point of all of the different characteristics. I did want to clarify with you a little bit later on what you were meaning by some of the labeling, whether you were trying to indicate just that this is image number 1, or you were trying to indicate that you thought that was position number 1. I do want to make sure that you understand what those positions are. Just keep shooting. I think you've got a lot of potential, and we'll see you in the studio. All right, bye-bye now.